What if, somewhere beneath the dark waves, an ancient titan lurked, so massive and fearsome that few survived to speak of it? For centuries, sailors whispered about a monstrous cephalopod capable of dragging entire ships to their doom. They called it the Kraken. Most people shrug it off as a tall tale or a figment of overactive imaginations. But what if there's more truth to this legend than we realize? Today, we dive into the murky depths of the ocean, exploring whether the Kraken could be real, how it might live, and the shocking ways it would change our world. From the chilling tales of Viking explorers to modern scientific discoveries, we'll uncover why this giant might not be as impossible as it seems, and why some believe it's only a matter of time before someone has a close encounter with one. But before you declare this mere fantasy, remember, the ocean is vast and barely explored. Creatures once considered mythical, like the giant squid, turned out to be real, and experts estimate we've only glimpsed a tiny fraction of marine life. Could an even bigger cephalopod be out there, slipping silently through black waters? Let's find out. From Norse sagas to modern pop culture, the Kraken's reputation has endured for centuries. Viking sailors spinning harrowing stories about colossal tentacles weren't simply passing the time. They were warning future generations of something they believed was waiting in the deep. As trade routes spread across the globe, rumors of massive sea beasts roamed far beyond the North Atlantic. Ancient Greek and Roman texts mention creatures large enough to devour ships in a single gulp, possibly alluding to early versions of the Kraken myth. In many of these accounts, the creature was said to appear without warning, churning the ocean and creating deadly whirlpools. Some described it as an island, immobile at first, until unsuspecting sailors drew near. Once the ship was in range, the beast would awaken, unleashing a fury of tentacles that ensnared both vessel and crew. True or not, these stories became deeply rooted in maritime folklore. Even modern cryptozoologists argue that legends rarely appear out of thin air. Often, they're inspired by real encounters, misidentifications, or rare phenomena. With the Kraken, part of the allure is that kernels of truth might be buried within the tale. Still, the persistent question is, where's the evidence? Despite centuries of rumor, no verified Kraken specimen has turned up. Skeptics say the story persists because it's too iconic to die. Yet, there's an equally intriguing counterpoint. Cephalopods are notoriously difficult to study, especially in extreme depths, and their bodies decay rapidly. Perhaps the mythical beast left no trace because soft tissues don't fossilize well. If these creatures exist, they could be hiding in the uncharted corners of our seas, leaving us only with puzzling eyewitness accounts and ghostly glimpses on sonar. Could that be enough to keep the myth alive? Possibly, because countless seafaring cultures across the world share eerily similar tales. But that was only the first ripple in these mysterious waters. The deeper you dive, the more the lines between myth and reality begin to blur. Let's consider the modern-day giants we know about. The colossal squid and giant squid are both mind-bendingly large cephalopods, discovered and studied within the last century. Until recently, people believed giant squid sightings were pure maritime lore. Then, flesh and blood specimens began washing up on shore, and stunned scientists had to revise what they thought they knew about the ocean. Could the Kraken be simply an even larger relative? These real-life squids already reach lengths of up to 14 meters, 45 feet or more. Imagine adding a few extra tentacles, scaling up the body mass 10 or 20 times, and you get a horrifying possibility. A cephalopod so large it eclipses small islands. Of course, there are scientific doubts. As creatures grow exponentially larger, they face bigger metabolic demands. A genuine Kraken, if it existed, would need to consume massive quantities of prey. How would it find enough food in the cold, sparse depths? Some theorize that such a beast would roam nutrient-rich areas, migrating across oceans in search of feeding grounds, much like whales. It could follow large schools of fish or even target whales themselves, which is not entirely unthinkable given that giant squids have been known to battle sperm whales. Then there's the question of buoyancy and muscle power. You might wonder how this hypothetical Kraken could generate enough force to yank a fully loaded ship underwater. Physics tells us it's about displacing water and overcoming the buoyant force keeping the ship afloat. If the creature is sufficiently large with powerful tentacles and a strong grip, it's not outside the realm of possibility. After all, ships that size float, But not all vessels are built like modern supertankers. Older wooden ships, especially, relied on air-filled compartments and robust hull design, but they were still vulnerable to large-scale collisions. A monstrous cephalopod might exploit weaknesses in the hull, or simply flood it by generating massive waves. The result could be a catastrophic sinking, fueling even more sea tales. Skeptics remain unconvinced, insisting that if such a beast existed, we'd have found more conclusive evidence by now. Yet oceans cover over 70% of our planet, and humans have explored barely a fraction in depth. Strange new species are discovered every year, including creatures that thrive in hostile environments once thought impossible for life. So, perhaps a living kraken is only improbable, not impossible. But that's not the only concern. Because if a genuine kraken roamed our seas, maritime history might look drastically different. Picture a world where every expedition beyond coastal waters risked crossing paths with a ravenous sea monster. Had the kraken truly been lurking in the Atlantic, some of the greatest voyages in human history might never have happened. Take the legendary voyages of the Vikings. Known for their fearless exploration, these Norse seafarers pushed into uncharted territory, crossing to Iceland, Greenland, and eventually North America. If repeated sightings of a colossal beast were common, would they have dared to set sail so boldly? Consider Christopher Columbus and his crew. Terrified to be the next victims of a rumored island-sized monster, they might have aborted their mission long before the New World came into view. The Age of Exploration, a cornerstone period that led to global trade routes and colonization, could have stalled out or taken entirely different paths. European powers might have invested heavily in alternative travel methods or waited centuries until ballooning or early air travel made the leap across the sea safer. Even the development of faster and more powerful ships could have become a top priority, hastening technological breakthroughs in naval warfare and engineering. In that scenario, sea monsters would no longer be mere footnotes in folklore, but pressing threats guiding the entire course of exploration. The presence of a terrifying aquatic predator would also have impacted cultural beliefs. Fear, superstition, and dread might have shaped maritime rituals. Traditional offerings to appease the beast could have become the norm. Stories of entire fleets disappearing without a trace might have deterred certain nations from building navies, thereby shifting the balance of power. Would the British Empire's dominance on the seas have grown so vast if their vessels were occasionally snapped up by monstrous tentacles? Possibly not. And if you think these ideas sound outlandish, remember that there's a reason "Here be dragons" once marked uncharted waters on old maps. The unknown was terrifying, and the idea of sea monsters was a valid explanation for vanished ships. If the Kraken were more than myth, countless maritime disasters might have been pinned directly on its presence, shaping folklore and real-world decisions alike. Even today, rumors of enormous unidentified creatures pop up from time to time, leaving us to wonder how many so-called sea monster reports stem from something people truly witnessed, yet were too rattled to understand. With advancements in technology, submersibles, satellite tracking, and deep-sea drones, we're uncovering new frontiers in marine biology. But despite these innovations, there are enormous pockets of the ocean we still know nothing about. Could the Kraken be hiding in such remote depths? Occasionally, unexplained sonar readings fuel speculation about giant aquatic creatures. Military vessels have recorded unusual underwater movements that some interpret as colossal sea life. Of course, official reports rarely confirm giant squid beyond normal parameters, and scientists caution that many anomalies turn out to be schools of fish, underwater volcanic activity, or instrument glitches. Still, the rumors persist. Cryptozoology enthusiasts exchange stories of fishermen who encountered gargantuan tentacles near trenches in the Pacific or Atlantic. Some mariners claim that entire pods of whales have been found scarred with suction marks too large to be from any known squid. Dramatic? Definitely. But impossible? Not necessarily. Considering how elusive deep-sea creatures can be, it's not unreasonable to assume larger, undiscovered relatives might exist. Then there are theories about how a kraken could evade detection. Perhaps it relies on exceptional camouflage, akin to known cephalopods that can change color or texture instantly. Maybe it dwells in undersea caves or deep trenches where pressure is immense and sunlight never penetrates. If it's intelligent, cephalopods are some of the smartest invertebrates. Then, avoiding humans might be an adaptation that served it well for centuries. A few eyewitness claims describe strange shapes rising from the ocean's surface, then vanishing within seconds, as though the creature was deliberately staying out of sight. Skeptics argue that these tall tales and unexplained scars are easily overblown. But in an era when viral videos can distort reality, it's worth questioning whether some Kraken sightings could be hoaxes or misidentifications. People have a knack for sensationalizing the unknown. Scientists remain open-minded yet cautious, recognizing that while most alleged sea monsters end up debunked, the ocean's mysteries shouldn't be entirely dismissed. After all, no one wants to be the person who overlooked the next big discovery in marine biology, but let's assume for a moment it's real. How would a modern Kraken impact everyday life? Cruise ships, cargo carriers, and oil tankers crossing the ocean might change their routes or equip themselves with protective technologies, like advanced sonar deterrents or hull reinforcements. Insurance rates for maritime travel could skyrocket, reflecting the perceived risk of catastrophic encounters. Environmentalists might argue that a top predator like this helps maintain ecological balance, while fishing industries might worry about losing enormous quantities of catch. The world could be forced to acknowledge the ocean as a domain we share with something far more formidable than we ever imagined. So, is the Kraken real? Modern science leans toward highly unlikely, but it can't say impossible. Historical accounts, scattered sightings, and cephalopods of staggering size have all contributed to the creature's mythic legacy. If you asked centuries of sailors to bet their lives on it, many would swear they'd seen proof with their own eyes. Today, we have more technology and research than ever, yet the ocean's depths remain a vast frontier. Strange discoveries, from giant jellyfish to beaked whales, remind us that our planet is brimming with secrets yet to be unveiled. Regardless of its actual existence, the Kraken has shaped cultural narratives for generations, symbolizing the ultimate fear of the unknown. It's a testament to the ocean's power, a living lesson that some mysteries might never be fully solved. And in that lingering uncertainty, the legend endures, ready to spark the next story of a doomed ship or a frantic distress call from the middle of nowhere. The faint possibility of such a creature forces us to confront the limits of our knowledge and the fragile balance that allows us to traverse treacherous waters. And if the Kraken truly exists, one thing's certain: it won't stay a secret forever. All it takes is one fateful encounter to change everything we believe about the ocean's greatest mystery. Until then, we can't help but wonder what else is lurking just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to rise.